Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. This is your host, Bob Gibbons.
And I'm Stephen Nooner.
Thanks for being with us today. As you know, if you've listened to us in the past, and we know you have, or you will in the future, this is all about learning. And we ask our entrepreneurs to be our guests, and we have a fun and meaningful conversation to learn about how they got started and what they're doing, and how we can learn and apply those things to our businesses as well.
Much better today, Bob.
I know, I really bombed last week. That was a major choke, and you saved me. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, introduce our guest then.
All right. Well, I'm really excited today to introduce our guest. Our guest we call Next Leveler. So our Next Leveler for today is Todd Sternfeld. He is the CEO and owner of Superior Concrete Products, a premier full-service manufacturing and construction company that provides a complete range of concrete building systems such as concrete fences, retaining walls, and more. They employ just under 50 people. They have locations in Euless and Cleburne and have been in business for 30 years. Pretty awesome. To learn more about Todd and Superior Concrete Products, please visit concretefence.com. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you for having me, Bob and Stephen, and Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy New Year.
Looking forward to spending some time and having some good conversation with you, gentlemen.
Well, we hope you feel that way at the end as well. So let's start off with wisdom from others. And this week, our wisdom from others is actually a quote that our guest, Todd Sternfeld, provided for us. And it was something that Gary Player, the pro golfer, said. And he said, "The harder you work, the luckier you get." I really like that quote. What does that mean to you, Todd?
Well, in any endeavor that I've dealt with or have approached in my life through my father and grandfather, I always learned at an early stage, you have to work hard. Nothing is going to come easy to you. And so putting extra effort into things, going above and beyond the call of duty, is going to give you a better chance to hopefully reach your goals.
Right.
This one I thought was, I love this quote. In fact, I collect quotes and I added it to my quote book. So thank you for it. My family's Midwest farming type, that's kind of our roots. And so this is really ingrained in our family. And all throughout business and life, I've never felt like I was the smartest person. I always felt like I was willing to.
I never thought that either.
Yeah, well,
about you, I mean,
you've known me for a while, so you know for certain that is not true. But you also know that I will work hard.
That is true.
So I really appreciate this resonate. I was like, that's an awesome one. So,
well, speaking of young, tell us about a couple of the jobs you had growing up as a kid. Something that you did that was a little unusual, or you just hated.
Oh, I don't know if I hated anything. I enjoyed working at the grocery store, where I started. One of my first jobs was working for the grocery stores, and at that time they had actual paper bags, and so the bagging system and the way that the grocery stores worked back when I worked is completely different.
How old were you at that time?
16.
Okay.
And so even prior to that, I did other types of work, landscaping, mowing grasses, delivering papers. One of my grandfathers was in the tool business, and speaking of farming, he would go out into the California agriculture areas of southern and central California and sell tools to farmers. And he used to put the tools, vices, impact wrenches, extension cords, open-end box wrenches in the back of his trunk. And then he'd pull out the back seat, and he had extra inventory, so whatever he sold out of the back of the trunk, then he could go pull.
It's a pickup now.
It's a little bit of a pickup, but he wasn't intimidating coming onto a ranch. They just thought he was just a normal guy, and then he'd pull up, and so I used to help him load the car with the tools and get it ready. So I used to do a lot of different things, even with my father being in the clothing business. He was a shirt manufacturer and would have sometimes off runs of shirts and so forth. And I had opportunity to get some extra boxes of those from time to time and take them down to the swap meets.
Oh,
so yeah. And so I have a kind of follow-up question to that is that, you know, I delivered papers, grocery store. I had a landscaping business as a teenager. How much, like, I don't see kids doing jobs like that these days, and how much do you think that is a product of who you are and your work ethic now, or do you think you were that before you did those types of jobs?
That's a good question. I think it was just something that, from the standpoint that the role models that I had around me were always working, and it was always something that I was taught that if you want something, you have to work for it. And today, I think a lot of the younger generation maybe feels a little bit more entitled to things. And I think that's as a result of the technology that has been brought into the society.
Everything's instant, right?
And I was talking to a couple of my daughters last night about that specifically, where at one time beepers were real popular.
Well, you are dating yourself,
right? And we used to think, oh, anybody that had a beeper had to be a doctor, right?
Right.
And then as time went on,
or a drug dealer.
As time on, business people started to get beepers. But the interesting thing about the beepers, it wasn't instantaneous, right? Someone would beep you, then you had to go to a landline because there wasn't cell phones at that time to go and make the phone call. So, yeah. I mean, I definitely can feel a little dated when I talk about some of those things.
Yeah, our reaction times have accelerated considerably.
Well, switching gears a little bit, let's talk about Superior Concrete Products. I mean, who are you guys for the audience, and what, you know, who's your typical client?
Well, we are a full-service company in terms of we do the engineering of the fences. Most of the solid walls that we do have to meet a certain building code, and we do work all over the United States. So where higher wind loads are going to be are closer to the coast, whether it be Galveston or Florida.
Sure.
And of course in other areas like California where you have seismic issues. So we design the walls to meet the local building codes that are generally driven by the wind speed, the soil conditions, and what the height of the wall is. So we'll take that information in and we'll go ahead and design the wall for each application, make the product, and then go out and actually do the installation.
Why is a product like this better than, say, a fence, like, or, you know, some of the other?
It is a fence, Stephen. It's just concrete.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I'm a little slow on the uptake. Glad you're here to bail me out. Well, let's say a wooden fence or some other material, the plastic fences that we see.
Yeah, when you think about the fence market, you think about wood fence, you think about masonry fence, you think about iron fence, of course, chain link. You know, I'm sure when you guys went to school, there was chain link around the fence, around the school property, that type of thing. So precast is really kind of revolutionary, not just for fencing, but for all building materials, and has grown and accelerated in terms of the technology, the type of concrete mixes that are available, and has become a real creative product for a lot of different uses. The fencing was one that kind of was developed as a result of me growing up in Los Angeles, where block walls are the standard. And so most people have block walls around their houses, not wood fences per se. So the concept was, if you had something that was precast that could go up faster, that you didn't need a mason to install it, that looked aesthetically nicer than just a plain block wall, that it would be something that would be marketable. And that's kind of where it kind of started, and then from there it grew accordingly.
So you don't do the actual installation yourself. You do that. Somebody else does that?
We do. We have in-house crews that do the installation, and we send the crews to the job wherever the project is.
All over the country?
All over the country.
Wow.
But we also do sell materials to contractors, because we get calls from contractors that say, they're either masonry contractors or fence contractors that want to install our product. We do provide installation instructions, and we will even send out people to the site to assist, because if it's a first-time installer, even though he might be an experienced fence contractor or experienced masonry contractor, working with our material does require a little bit more time and effort.
Interesting.
So who is your typical client? You mentioned contractors. Who else typically buys your products and services?
Builders, municipalities, utility companies.
So how big a job do you typically see? I mean, does it have to be, 500 linear feet of fencing before it really is justifiable, or what is there?
We'll do any size project. I would say that our average project is probably around 300 feet to 1,000 feet.
So that
500 feet number that you mentioned is kind of an average.
Oh, well, I'm smarter than I realized then.
And they're beautiful. I mean, I saw them.
I was looking at the website, and it's really incredible. That's concretefence.com, by the way, so go check it out.
And so one of the things that I'm really intrigued by is that you've been in business 30 years, and you are still a relatively young man. So, I mean, you were really, really young in doing this. I mean, I'm sure someone told you it couldn't be done. Where did the confidence come from to take something like that on?
Just the drive. Again, the role models that I had growing up, seeing how my grandfathers worked, my father worked, my brother. So I think it was just, something from the standpoint that once I found something that I felt was a viable product that I believed in, then it was just a matter of going for it.
So how old were you when you actually started?
19.
19 years old. I mean, that's amazing. How did you even know that the need existed? Just looking at those block walls you were talking about?
Well, coming from the landscaping business, being involved with the block walls, being involved with wood fences, there was a movement that was just starting to happen in terms of trying to bring some precast fencing from overseas.
Okay. And so this idea, you'd seen it somewhere else?
In a plain fashion, in a plain texture.
Okay. So you were trying to find a way to make it look aesthetically pleasing.
So the ugly wall your neighbor has.
I was telling Stephen earlier, I was walking in not my exact neighborhood, but the one next door to me, and I saw a concrete fence, and I was like, man, that thing's ugly. And it's really an ugly fence, but it's
plain.
Not one of yours. It's very plain. It's not installed very nicely. And I was like, I don't know why they'd want to have that. But then I looked at your website and I'm like, well, yeah, I'd love to have that. So there's some variety there, and some people aren't doing such a great job.
Well, so we're going to go to a break, but before we do, you've identified the hottest new product innovation that you just know is going to be successful, but slowly you begin to realize you may have made a mistake. How do you know when it's time to pull the plug? Stick around.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand. And landlords count on this being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate one, maybe two leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at TexasTenantRep.com. Again, that's TexasTenantRep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
Hi, this is Mike Covert, and I'm the president and founder of tech marketing agency Ignite Partnership. I help find customers for the best brands in the business, and I don't think there's any help for Bob and Steven. Good luck, guys.
Welcome back to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business. We're here with our guest, Todd Sternfeld of Superior Concrete Products. You can learn more about his company at concretefence.com. Welcome back, Todd.
Thank you.
So I wanted to get back to something we just sort of touched on earlier, which is fences. And I had mentioned, sort of my neighbor's ugly fence. You have a huge variety of finishes on your fences. Tell us a little bit about that and what they look like. Visualize it for our listeners.
Well, originally, to emphasize the concept of precast fencing, we really wanted to come up with a texture that people were familiar with that would resonate with them, and we came up with the idea of a wood texture, a siding look, and we really made the grain deep so that when somebody looked at the product, they would really think they're looking at a wood fence. People do like wood, but they don't like the maintenance.
Right.
It's more for wood is generally going to be a more long-lasting product for an interior application, but for exterior application, because of the harsh environments that we have, the weather pattern changes, concrete obviously is going to be a long-lasting product. So we came up with the idea of the wood pattern, and from there we came up with other patterns, brick patterns. We have several stone patterns, and we've even come up with vertical texture wood patterns, a stucco pattern, and I have another product that we're going to be bringing out into the market probably toward the end of this year, if not the first part of next year, and we'll unveil that at the World of Concrete show where we exhibit every year in Las Vegas.
So how does your product, in terms of pricing, compare to traditional fencing methods?
Well, we talked a little bit about the concept. I want to back up and just mention to you, there is a term that I think the audience should kind of, make note of. The concept of posts and panels really started a long time ago, even before precast. They called it the old hill and dale fence. And basically it was designed to go on hills, and they came up with this post and panel concept to make it a little easier as opposed to a wood fence that would follow a slope. This is more of a stair-step approach,
right,
which is kind of how our product works on a stair-stepping basis. So in terms of the question again?
How does the cost compare?
The cost. The cost is going to be, depending on how you look at it, the initial cost is going to be more expensive. Although, if it's in a residential application, like you were mentioning, and our product looks nice on both sides. As a result of that, you can split the cost with your neighbor. So that gets the cost even more closer to what it would be for a nice wood fence. Generally speaking, it's going to be 2 to 4 times the cost of a wood fence. But over the lifetime of that wood fence, you're going to have to either replace it after 8 years, 10 years, stain it, whatever the case may be. So there is a point where it does become just as cost effective to put up the concrete initially.
I've been in my house 20 years. I'm on my 3rd fence.
There you go.
And he lets them really go before he replaces them. So, we could have had, you got a new client here. And the same thing I look at, we have a number of rental properties. Same thing. The tenants don't care for them the same way that you do when you live there, and we aren't as connected to them. So a product like this, it keeps it looking nice when it's in a decent neighborhood. And I mean, to me, the return on investment would be significant just to not have to worry about it if you're going to have the property for a while.
And it will appraise from an appraisal standpoint because it meets the criteria of a masonry wall, even though, quote unquote, it looks like a fence.
Sure.
But it does meet the criteria, and it is engineered and designed like a masonry fence. And I think another important point to mention, the colors mixed in the concrete, so there's no painting involved. And as well as with wood fences, they call them privacy fences.
Mm-hmm. Right, but you can see through them.
Exactly. All of a sudden, it's not a privacy fence anymore.
Yeah.
Our product also provides sound reduction. So if you're in close proximity to your neighbor, you're going to get a lot of sound reduction from our product compared to a wood fence.
And I mean, kind of going along with and switching gears a little bit, but as I throw things, the residential property, one of the things I was struck by is, I saw something here about tiny houses. So you guys are looking at all kind. I mean, tell me about the tiny house.
Yeah, that market's heating up. I mean, if you watch some of the HTV shows out there, their tiny house market is a wave because the cost of construction is going up, the cost of land is going up, and people are looking for alternatives. Our product can meet that niche. Again, it's precast, it's modular, it's not going to be exposed to deterioration and weathering like some of the wood and siding that you have out there. It's also going to provide a level of more security, fireproof qualities. Being that it's modular, it's definitely a viable alternative for a tiny house. I built a small 600 square foot house at my factory, and we're now in the process of building a cabin unit, 400 square foot unit that will be used as a mobile home in one of the state parks.
Awesome.
So we're very excited about it. We're looking forward to marketing that a lot more once we get the product actually up and built and functional. But we're thinking that this is something that is going to be another alternative that will still be very, very cost effective because of the fact that it's precast. It goes up quick. It looks great.
Energy efficient.
More insulation properties. So we're very excited about it, and it can be done in a kit form.
I like that.
So it's very scalable too. I mean, that's awesome. Switching gears a little bit, what would you say, I mean, in your 30 years of business, what would you say has been your biggest breakdown that looking back now you see as a breakthrough?
Well, I mean, we looked at some other products over time. We do a lot of business with the utility companies surrounding substations. And I was approached by some gentlemen regarding a concrete pole for the utility market, for the distribution poles and the transmission poles. And it was a product that was developed by the University of Nebraska. And we did quite a bit of research on it and felt like this is something that we really should get involved with because we have relationships with the utility companies. And when the downturn hit, well, the utility companies they're not as affected by that because they're a utility company. Everybody still needs electricity and utilities. So we thought that would be a real viable product for us. There was nobody in North Texas making concrete poles. But what we realized is there is some bureaucracy involved in trying to get that product into the utility market. And so I still believe in the product, but it was an expensive proposition. It was starting to take away from some of the other focus in our core business. And when I got into it originally, I put a limit on what we were going to do with this. And if the product was not going to have a return on investment after a certain period of time and a certain investment threshold, then that's when the time was that we had to basically shut the water faucet off.
So that's fascinating. So you said it before you even went into it. You said this is the red line, and I'm cutting it off if it gets to the red line.
So let me ask, if you don't mind sharing, how long was that period of time?
It was about 18 months.
So within 18 months, it had to be profitable, or you just had to have enough orders that you could see profitability in the future?
It had to. I wasn't as concerned initially with the profitability as just sustaining itself.
Sure.
So if a business can sustain itself, then there's an opportunity that you can grow it.
Right.
But if you can't even sustain it, then it's not going to be something that you really need to be spending your time or money on.
So it was really the bureaucracy and the length of time it was going to take to get this thing implemented that was the problem, not so much the technology.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
And so where do you have to focus the most to stay on track?
I think going back to our core business has been what has continued to accelerate the growth. I mean, during the downtime, we did get into another product, a retaining wall block product that we're starting to see really some traction with. As more building goes on, there's going to be more elevation issues on properties where they're going to need to retain walls. Drainage, with all the water that we've seen and the rain that we've had over the last several months, there's municipalities that have channels and levees and so forth that are starting to break down. So it's a real solid infrastructure product. And then again, just continuing to expand on what we've done for the last 30 years. We've got so much experience and knowledge that it's something that I think we just need to continue to build on. What I've seen happen is we've gone ahead and we've thrust much further ahead than the competitors in the business.
Now, we have only a couple of minutes left, but I'd like to talk about your equine market, because I noticed on your website there was a lot of applications for your products in the equine market, but I understand you also have some other sort of community service efforts along that line too. So tell us about that.
I was always taught to give back to the community, and I got involved with two organizations. One is the Victory Therapy Center, and the other one is the Diamond Ranch Academy. Both of them are equine and therapeutic facilities. I've provided my product and donated my product to those organizations. The equine market is growing. Being here in Texas, there's a lot of cutting horse, a lot of other competitive things that are taking place. But we exhibit that product every year at the concrete show, and year in, year out, people come up and touch that product. They can't believe that it is concrete. It looks so much like a wood fence.
That's amazing.
Well, Todd, I just want to thank you. Thank you for your time today. And we'd also like to thank our audience. If you'd like to get in touch with Todd, please visit concretefence.com. To connect with us and the show, please visit us at, this is a tough day, nextlevelshow.com. You can connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, other social medias.
And go to the website and check out who we're going to be interviewing in the future. And if you have any ideas on questions you'd like us to ask that person, email us, text us, whatever. I guess you can't text us because my cell phone's not on the website and never will be.
Maybe they can page you, Bob. Maybe they can page you.
Yeah, they can page me through Todd. We'll see you next week with another guest. Thank you very much.
Have a great week.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.